2023 has been a good year for Simgot audio, and in fact, I would even say they are more popular this year as compared to previous year, thanks to Simgot audio EA500, which was very well received, quite popular, and in fact, probably one of the best budget range IEM you can find nowadays still. And in the wake of that EA500 success, Simgot has somehow managed to secure a formula of creating good sounding IEM. So today I have with me here this double of Simgot Audio Sharp, or the code name being EW100P, and this Simgot Audio Maze, which is coded as EW200. Alright, so let's just have a look at the price first for these two. This EW100P is in fact priced at around 16 US dollar if you check in AliExpress, and for the EW200 it is at around double the price, which is at around 36 US dollar, almost 37 in fact. And looking at the configuration, I would even say that both are pretty much identical, at least from the perspective of the outlook, the shell itself, the design, okay, as you can see here. But these are the differences when it comes to hardware, and I also included EA500 there for the sake of comparison, so that we get some ideas. So as you can see here, EW100P is essentially the plastic model to reduce the price. Okay, they opted to use a plastic shell, whereas EW200 is definitely metal, heavier too. And in fact, the driver is in fact, all three of them uses 10mm dual cavity single dynamic driver, with the difference perhaps being the diaphragm construction. So as you can see here as well, the diaphragm for EW100P is in fact LCP, and EW200 is double-sided vapor deposited silicon crystal. A bit advanced there. And in fact, EA500 perhaps has the most exotic one, which is designated as 4th generation DLC composite. Okay, and when it comes to the tuning itself, we can see that at least I can tell EW100P surprisingly has the highest impedance rated at 32 ohm, and EW200 in fact the lowest among all of them at 16 ohm. In fact, same like EA500. And with the sensitivity itself, EW100P is in fact the one with the less sensitivity at around 122 dB, whereas EW200 is higher at 126, and in fact EA500 somewhere in between. Okay, so as with the rest of the construction, in fact it is pretty much standard. In fact, the packaging itself very simple. I'm not even going to show you what's inside the unboxing or anything like that, because it comes with for EW100P woven silver foil shielded copper, and EW200 comes with high purity silver plated OFC. In fact, it's definitely physically, we can clearly see here that this EW200 is thicker with the cable itself as compared to this EW100P. Okay, so now, having said that, let's just touch a bit on the element of wear and usage. As you can see, both of them, okay, like I say, similarly designed in the terms of construction. And in fact, ergonomically at the back here, they are pretty much similar as well. And I would say that between these two, I am more comfortable wearing this plastic EW100P for the fact that it is a lot lighter. In fact, it is like 3 times lighter than this EW200. So this EW200 is kind of a bit, heavier because it is metal, and in fact, it is still comfortable to wear up to around 3 hours mark. But if you need to wear something for the whole day, EW100P perhaps is a better option. First, I did mention earlier that these two came in the wake of the success of EA500, and in fact, just to make things simple, I would just put it this way: these two have similar sound tuning to EA500 in many ways. In fact, they are definitely similar in the way, the tone and the timbre and the tuning of the sound curve itself. So I would probably focus a bit more on the differences between the EW100P against EW200. So as you can see here, right, let's talk about the power itself, driving power. And when it comes to power, as usual, I always start with using my phone here, which is my Sony Xperia 1, very weak phone source, which is, directly under 35 milliwatt of power per channel and under 1 BRMS. Both are fairly okay, easy to drive, okay, for sensible listening volume. And I would say that, the best perhaps, especially for this EW100P, is that it needs a bit more power than this EW200. First, because of that, impedance rating and sensitivity. This EW200 has 16 ohm, as I have shown you earlier, and higher sensitivity at 126, whereas this is definitely higher with impedance and also lower with sensitivity. So it needs more power. When I connect these two, in fact, to my two big amplifier here, which I'm testing as well, which is FIO K9, and also this newly received Burson Audio Playmate 2, which is super powerful class A. I need, in fact, volume for this EW100P at around 22. And surprisingly, this EW200 needed only 8. And in fact, in order to make sure that I am hearing correctly, I have actually used this splitter you can see here. Connect them to this single-ended to one amplifier, adjust the volume first, and then to make sure that they are giving me the same sort of experience, consistent with the same song, the same source, the same amplifier. And these are the differences, at least from the power perspective. So when we talk about the sound itself, first, the note width. I would just simply say that EW100P is definitely slightly leaner sounding as compared to the richer sounding EW200. So definitely that is a visible difference between these two, despite the fact that the tuning is pretty much similar, but the density of the note width itself is different. Okay, same goes with resolution. As you can see there, I would say that mild resolution, it is kind of a soft edge for this EW100P as compared to the, more resolving resolution coming from this EW200. And manner of saying is that this EW200 is a bit more analytical overall. And when it comes to dynamic energy, the presentation itself, I would definitely say that if you're looking for something which is safe tuned, less euphonic, EW100P is the one to go for. And where else EW200 is more energetic, more vibrant, so it is in fact more exciting. Okay, and when it comes to the dynamics, the presentation of the dynamic, we talk about the upper frequency, so definitely I would even say that this EW100P is the one with less extension. It is in fact slightly roll off, but at least it is airy with the upper frequency. And similarly, EW200 has similar kind of presentation with the upper frequency, but the extension is really good. In fact, I am quite impressed with the extension, and it has also good sparkle and air to it with the upper frequency. And when we go into mids, definitely I would say that between these two, this EW100P is a bit more neutral, meaning that, it is kind of a bit slightly recessed, perhaps, sounding a bit, not as rich or warmer sounding as this EW200. And when it comes to lower frequency, the bass region, again, in tandem with the rest of the sound team for this EW100P, I would even say that the bass is slightly slower. It is softer also, but it means also the decays are smoother than EW200, which would appear faster, more tactile, and in fact impactful. Okay, but the good thing is that both of them exhibit proper balance of mid bass and sub bass. Okay, so now let's talk about technicalities. Sound stage, I would say that definitely, surprisingly, this EW100P would appear slightly larger with the spacing itself wider, but I would say that, this EW200 is close enough, but it is more frontal and open sounding. Okay, so it's kind of a give and take. If you prefer width over, let's say, more frontal kind of presentation, then EW100P is the one to go for. Okay, so another one with staging, which is the spatial staging. This EW100P is definitely a bit more traditional with the kind of orientation focus on left and right. So manner of saying is that this EW200 is a bit more holographic. So it is in fact more suitable for binaural sort of recording or even gaming. So if you are into gaming, if you are into 3D kind of sound, EW200 is the one to go for. Okay, now let's just go straight into rating and overview and comparison with the rest of the competition. I have already talked about the sound differences between EW100P and EW200. Let's just have a look at comparison with the rest. So first, let's just compare it with the bigger brother, which is EA500. As you can see here, overall, I would just simply say EA500 remains the one which I regard as being superior among all three of them because it is definitely more refined and in fact a better polished IEM as compared to these two. And definitely it is also still the more expensive one. Okay, if you look at it, pretty much the differences between EW100P is, averaging at around, almost 10 point overall. But let me just remind you again, despite the point and rating like that, right, the sound signature, the sound presentation itself, the tuning itself is similar, as I mentioned again, like earlier. But the way, the quality of the individual element, as mentioned here, from 1 to 10 differ. And definitely, it is without hesitation that I would say that the EW200 is the superior one between these two. The next comparison that I like to bring against this duo of Simgot EW is that this Tangzu Warner SG, which is another very popular IEM, and in fact, looking at the price, this EW100 competes directly with Warner SG. So in fact, if you look at the score there, the total score, they are pretty much similar. And I must admit that Warner SG perhaps have a slight upper hand when it comes to the total performance rating itself, because Warner SG scored 77 and EW100 scored 75. So the main difference between those two is that Warner SG I would consider as warmer sounding IEM, whereas this is a bit more, neutral to the sound presentation itself. With the timbre and tone balance, they are pretty much identical in many ways. And in fact, if you look at the scoring there, right, anything from dynamic, tone, timbre, note weight, density, and in fact, many aspects of it, they are very, very similar sounding. And now here's the most interesting part. You see there, I also placed there FIO FD11, another great IM which I have reviewed recently, very recently in fact. And when I placed this FIO FD11 into this graph, I was really surprised. Surprised because it is in fact practically identical with Simgot EW200. Yes, both of them compete within the same price bracket, and in fact, the performance rating for both of them, everything from 1 until 10 is practically identical. At least to my ears, both of them sounds very, very similar. In fact, if I were not to compare them side by side, okay, I would not be able to tell which one is which. That's how close it is, okay? So both are definitely very well tuned, and definitely I would say that one of the best value that you can find for anything under 30 US dollar, or in fact, depending on which shop you buy, under 40 US dollar. The way I look at it, we are being presented with new releases of IEM almost on daily basis now at alarming frequency. It is like, every day you get to see new announcement of new IEM being released. And the good thing about it is that, the price gets lower, yet the quality seemingly to be getting better as well. So that is definitely a very positive thing for the consumer. And these two here, EW100P and in fact EW200, is a prime example of those type of IEM. You don't have to pay so much money to get quality nowadays. This EW200 is definitely one of the key recommendations that I would propose, right, for anybody looking for a very well balanced, very well tuned, and in fact amply analytical yet energetic and vibrant IEM.